The fire burns low, and the night air is sharp. Pull your coat close, friend, and let me tell you a story about land, loss, and the kind of courage the frontier forced into people. This tale is called The Widow's Claim. Her name was Eliza Merrick. She came west with a husband and a dream. And by the time spring turned to summer, she had lost both. Fever took her husband in 3 days, leaving her with a patch of dirt, a drafty shack, and a single mule that looked older than the hills. Most folks would have sold off and left, but Eliza stayed. She stayed because her husband had built the first wall of that shack, and she swore she'd see it through. The land wasn't much, 20 acres of stubborn grass and rocky soil. But under the Homestead Act, it was hers, provided she worked it 5 years. The law didn't scare her. What scared her were the men who didn't care about law at all. One of them was Silas Crow, a speculator who circled like a vulture. He had money, muscle, and an eye for claims left vulnerable. He came riding up one morning with 2 men behind him, wearing a smile that had no kindness. "Ma'am," he said, tipping his hat, "this stretch of land is wasted on you. I'll take it off your hands for a fair price. Better to sell now than fail later." Eliza stood on her porch with her shotgun resting against the rail. "This land isn't for sale." Silas chuckled, as if her words were a child's defiance. "Everything's for sale, widow. I'll give you 3 days to think it over." When he rode off, the dust he left behind seemed to cling longer than it should, like a warning. Eliza worked harder. She patched the roof, planted corn between stones, and drew water from a well that seemed to shrink each week. At night, she sat at the table with a lantern and traced her husband's name on the deed. She told herself, paper was stronger than greed if you held it long enough. But greed doesn't tire. On the 3rd day, Silas returned. This time his men carried rifles across their saddles. "Last chance, ma'am," he said. "Sell, or we'll see how long you last without friends." Eliza lifted her shotgun. Her hands didn't shake. "This is my land. You'll have to take it from me cold." The standoff stretched, silent but sharp. Finally, Silas laughed and wheeled his horse. "Have it your way, widow. But storms come. We'll see how you stand then." That night, clouds gathered, and the storm he promised rolled in. Rain hammered the roof, turning her patch into mud. At dawn, she found her fence trampled and her mule gone. Whether it was lightning or Silas's men, she couldn't prove. But she knew most would have broken then. But Eliza dug her heels deeper. She repaired the fence, borrowed a mule from a neighbor, and wrote to the land office in town, reporting harassment. She knew the wheels of law turned slow, but she also knew written words could outlast bullets. Weeks passed. Silas tried again, sending men to camp near her field, to scare her with shadows and whispers. She answered with work. Each dawn she lit her lantern. Each dusk she watered her corn. And each night she prayed that the ink on her deed would weigh more than the fear pressing at her door. Then came the day the land agent rode out, a man with spectacles and a ledger. He measured her fences, checked her crops, and stamped her deed official. "Mrs. Merrick," he said, "this land is yours by law. No one can take it without breaking it." Silas arrived as the agent left, fury plain on his face. "You think a scrap of paper will keep you safe?" he growled. Eliza stood tall, her shotgun across her arms. "Not just paper, work, sweat, and a promise I made to my husband. That's stronger than you'll ever be." For a long moment, Silas stared. Then, seeing the neighbors watching from their porches, seeing the lawman's dust still hanging in the air, he spat and rode off. His kind feeds on weakness, and that day Eliza gave him none. The years ahead were still hard. Harvests failed, winters bit, but she endured. The shack became a home. The stones gave way to soil, and the name Merrick stayed inked in the county book. That's the story of the widow's claim. Not a tale of bullets flying or bodies in the street, but of a woman who refused to bow when it would have been easier to break. The frontier was not only shaped by outlaws and sheriffs. It was carved by widows with calloused hands, by people who stood their ground with nothing but paper, sweat, and a promise. So when you think of the West, remember Eliza Merrick. Remember the night storms tested her roof, the mornings she lit her lantern, and the day she proved one voice can outlast many threats. I'm Lady Land, and this fire will keep burning. Each week, I'll share another story, some from history, some from dust and imagination, all carrying the heart of the frontier. If this tale sat with you, subscribe, share the fire, and join me again. Until then, keep your powder dry, your word good, and your eyes on the line where night becomes morning.